What's up, everybody? It's Dr. C. I got my guy Tyler over here. What's up, man? So we have a benefit show for Tyler this Friday, August 31st in Lafayette at the Worst Beer Garden. Starts at 9 o'clock. And I'll let Tyler kind of tell you about why we're having this benefit. Back in April, Tyler actually had a stroke, and Tyler's 32. And to say it was unexpected is kind of talking down about it. So man, Tyler, tell me, walk me through that day. Tell me what happened the night of before and the day of, and walk me through that, man.
Sure. Even though you already know, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, man. Unexpected is not even close. That's really like understated. Just because it was so left field. It was a super normal Saturday night. I had barbecued outside, had a couple people over, had some drinks and some laughs and whatnot, and stayed up pretty late, listening to music, watching YouTube videos, that kind of thing, and decided to, finally go to bed and just turn the lights off and around the house and grab me a bottle of water and stuff. And I'm like, all right, cool, let me go crash. And I remember shutting the light off in the bedroom because poor Megan was crashed. My girlfriend. I turned the light off and I went just to lay down, grab me a bottle of water and lay down and go ahead and go to bed. That was the last time that I was normal, I guess. And about 4 hours later, kind of woke up in the middle of the stroke. I was making noises. It sounded almost like I was having a bad dream or something, sort of like a moaning, weird noise that actually woke my girlfriend up first. And I was trying to sit up and get some water, turn over to try and get some water, and realized I couldn't sit up. And the harder I tried to sit up, the louder and the louder the noise that I was making was getting and everything. Megan tried waking me up, and then she got up and she walked around to the other side of the bed because she didn't know what was going on. So she was kind of trying to shake me awake. And during that point, she realized she could see my face. She realized that I was actually awake, and I was trying to speak, and I wasn't able to move or anything. And she tried, grabbing both my arms and trying to pick me up. Maybe just get me started. I could use the momentum to sort of sit up, and she tried picking, basically pulling me up, but it was dead weight. Dead weight at that point. She couldn't move me, and I couldn't move myself. And it was at that point she was trying to ask me questions if I was awake and stuff like that. And I guess in the panic trying to communicate, I realized that my right arm was working perfectly fine. So I started give thumbs up and thumbs down and stuff, and trying to communicate, nonverbal, because no matter how hard I was trying to say things, it would just come out as gibberish. It was something that's called aphasia. Basically, where your brain knows what to say and knows how to say it and everything, but the disconnect between your brain and everything else is just so severe that you're not able to speak, even though you know exactly how and you've done it, since I was really young. And it was at that point she had asked me if she wanted to call 911, which I gave a resounding thumbs up. I was very on board with that idea. And she was actually on the phone with 911. This is something for some reason, like I keep leaving out, probably for time. But being when she was on the phone and basically like the 911 was asking like a bunch of like questions to sort of like pinpoint exactly what was happening to me. And at the same time, I was like waving my arms around. I'm like, hey, can I get, I want to write, I want to try to write something or whatever. So she runs and grabs me a piece of paper and a pen. And we still have the piece of paper over here that I wrote on somewhere. But I just kept writing WTF over and over again. And she's like, basically she's like, what, WTF, what's going on kind of thing, and freaking out. And she's like, I don't know, like, and then finally 911 got her to get me to smile. And like when she asked me to just smile, like I knew, okay, I've heard that several times before. Like if there's like a droop, on one side of the face, then you're having a stroke. So I smiled, and her face changed dramatically. So I could tell that definitely I had one side of my face drooping, which was my left side. My left side is the affected side. And she did really well keeping calm in that situation, because I definitely wasn't. I was panicked, and the ambulance arrived very quickly. And being that I wasn't able to move, they had to carry my tubby butt outside. But it was a super, super quick haul down Pinhook. Like a 7-minute ambulance ride. Like those cats were flying, because it's time's really important. The longer you go untreated, the more damage it's going to have on everything, whatever it's affected. So we got to the emergency room, and my doctor, Dr. Hargrave, was my neurologist, and he was the neurologist on call in the emergency room that day. Who was fantastic, by the way. He immediately, as I think they were wheeling me to a CT scan or MRI, I'm not sure which one. All of those tests were pretty much a blur. But he was trying to communicate with me as they were rolling me into the ER. And I remember him specifically asking me, like he was pointing like at his glasses, like, what are these? And I was like, duh, they're glasses. But that wasn't what came out of my mouth. It was like, like it sounded like that. And that was probably one of the freakiest things. That, like, I basically lost communication. I don't know sign language or anything like that. So I was like, I have no way of talking to people. And at that point, you don't know if it's permanent or anything, You don't know if your condition is just going to decline or everything. So, but they got me a scan, and they confirmed with the scan that they call it an acute ischemic stroke in my right parietal lobe, which is why my left side was affected, which is why my language is affected. And basically, given my girlfriend's accurate timeline of the last time that I was normal, to the time that she was woken up by the noises, they were able to give me a life-saving medication called TPA. It's like a clot buster, so it just went in there and broke everything up. And that was pretty crazy. You hear about like medical advancements and stuff like that, but and I started to get a little bit better, because they were pumping me with fluids and everything, and blood thinners to help my blood flow and everything. But I had started to get like a little better when they gave me the whole breakdown of the risks and everything associated with the clot buster. And basically I was like, hell yeah, pull the trigger if I can have a chance at talking again. much to the dismay of my girlfriend, because sometimes I talk too much. But yeah, like it was crazy. Like 20 minutes or so after they gave me the medication, like I was chatting up all the nurses in the ER, like, you know,
Like,
asking them like, what's your favorite like medical shows? Which ones are like full of crap? You know, like we don't do that in the ER or whatever. And, you know, just like I definitely, you know, my mood and just everything just got so much better once my speech starts to come back and I start to feel, you know, less foggy and more normal. So I was I was in the ER cracking jokes and you know being my normal self, which definitely brightened the ER nurses' day, who were like all incredible too, by the way.
that's good, man. That's good to hear. You know, at some point during your, you know, during those first hour or so, did it ever run through your head that, you know, I might never be the same, or I might
Absolutely,
die? Might,
absolutely.
yeah.
And it wasn't even the first few hours. I mean, there was like I spent uh, almost a week in the hospital, I think, and like all through that time, like a lot of that popped into my head, especially when I was trying to sleep, which sleep was very, very hard to get um, in the hospital. You know, one because like it's just a very uncomfortable place to sleep, but also like what's running through your head. You know, I had went to sleep fine, and the next morning I woke up in the middle of a stroke. So it's very hard to get your mind to stop racing when you're trying to sleep. That's something I still struggle with. Like sometimes I could be tired. I could be dead tired at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and then I'll get to sleep till like 1 or 2, you know, just because your mind's racing. It's like, okay, like what shape am I going to wake up in tomorrow? But absolutely, that has gone through my mind like several times, you know, a lot over the last few months, just, you know, especially not being like somebody who's terribly active, but I did so much musically, you know, so that off the top freaked me out, especially when I was. It's a weird feeling when they're asking you because they would come in every hour or so and they would do like their neuro checks to see if there's improvement in, you know, my limbs and everything, and they would be like, raise your arm and raise your leg, and it sounds so silly, but like you're sitting there and you're focusing like all of your energy, almost like straining, and you're like you know, your arms like coming up,
Mhm.
and on the one hand you're super happy, you know, seeing that you're able to move that limb again, but then you're also like upset and like, how much better will it get?
Right, right. So, man, the the stroke. I mean, the first of all, you're only 32,
Yeah,
but um, I mean, it's not like you know, were a heavy smoker. It's not like you have high blood pressure. It's not like you had diabetes.
yeah.
So what did the test? I mean, I've already asked you this, but for the audience here, what did the testing afterwards show? Like, why did you have this stroke?
Yeah, this was this was interesting in the fact that like I had like a neurologist and doctors and everything all scratching their head because um, it's it's not it's not terribly uncommon for 32-year-olds to have strokes based on their lifestyle, um, and that's an easy test for them to do. It's called a drug screen. Like they say, like locally, there's a lot of cocaine and methamphetamine use that'll lead to people as young as 21 19 have strokes. And and so they're like, they asked me, I couldn't tell you how many times, man. And then I was like, no, like seriously, like, I don't, that's not my lifestyle, man. It's just, it never was. And then they're like, okay, oh yeah, whatever. We're still gonna have to test you, whatever, for insurance. Where I was like, fine, do it. And then it came back all negative, and they're like, holy shit, we got a puzzle, you know?
Yeah, damn.
And through the initial ultrasound and everything of like my arteries, like they noticed some anomalies where they couldn't really get a solid read on my arteries and neck. And he's like, you know, that seems real. But at the same time, he's like, you do have like slightly elevated blood pressure. Don't have high blood pressure, but sometimes it's elevated, especially if I'm in a doctor's office or hospital. Always I'm higher. But
Yeah,
at home, my resting
blood, white coat, hypertension.
the white coat. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely have that. But for like initially, man, they were so lost, you know, because it was something they had never seen before. But they said that given my young age and my good overall health, like I'd had they said 95% to 100% chance to recover, which, you know, that was like, okay, like they said that, and now that I know that that's possible, that's the goal. That's to work towards, is that 95 to 100. And I mean, I'm still not there, but you know, I'm putting myself at like a hard like 85, 80,
Yeah.
85 somewhere.
Yeah, man, that's
But back to like the initial cause of the stroke, which this took, I think, 2.5, 3 months to fully kind of go through. And my neurologist here, he's a pretty conservative doctor, and he has me on like a really great prevention plan. They got me tested for sleep apnea, which was really terrible. I had something really awful, you know, with the sleep apnea, and I'm glad they caught that. And I'm using the you know, treatments at night for that, and so that was one thing he's got, and you know, put me on some blood thinners, obviously, and some blood pressure medicines to kind of keep it at bay for when it does spike. Some cholesterol medicine, just because we live in the South and fried food is everywhere.
yeah.
But I decided, which Dr. Hargrave was very supportive of, was to get a second opinion and maybe get some more thorough testing done to kind of find the root cause. Because I was one of those people who's like, I'm never gonna relax, and I'm never gonna be able to sleep normally again if I don't find out what the hell happened.
Sure.
So next step was Houston Methodist Church, Methodist Hospital in Houston, who like were phenomenal. They got all of my information and all of my records from Lafayette. They poured through them, and they actually caught a couple of things that I didn't necessarily get from Lafayette General, which which is why it's so great to have other sets of eyes looking at the same material, you know, always. And that's not a knock on Lafayette General. It's just always good to have another set of eyes. So they decided to go forward with like a couple of other tests where they wanted to make sure that my heart was functioning properly. I wasn't having any kind of arrhythmias or anything like that could, you know, throw a clot. Which I did just an echocardiogram, a simple ultrasound thing, and a little bubble test. It was basically like they put air bubbles through your heart, and they have an ultrasound, and they watch the air bubbles actually travel through your heart and make sure everything travels normally. And it did. Like I have a great heart, really healthy heart. And then the next test they ordered was the cerebral angiogram, which is like an invasive procedure.
Yeah, to say the least, huh, man?
Yeah, they go in through the groin to the femoral artery, and they basically have like a tiny catheter that goes all the way up to like my neck, and they'll inject dye and X-ray at the same time to see, basically a complete map of my main arteries and stuff inside of my brain. So this is the one that this is the one that really gave me answers. But the doctor who performed the procedure, he came in beforehand. He let me know this is how things are going to go. There's nothing to worry about. I've done 27,000 of these procedures in my career. I've been doing this for a long time. He's like, it's routine, not a big deal. Cool. I'm comfortable. Let's get rolling. We do the procedure, and there's a 4-hour wait time after the procedure to make sure there's no complications. So he comes in at some point after that, and he's looking at his paperwork, and he doesn't talk for like 2 minutes. He's like, I've never seen anything like this. And basically we had suspicions, and, my neurologist here had suspicions based on the inconclusive tests that they had done on me. But like Houston Methodist confirmed that I don't have carotid arteries in the front of my neck. He said also, so that leaves you with 2 good arteries in the back. Or normally it would leave you with 2 good arteries in the back of your head. But I think they're called vertebral. But
yeah, so just to kind of fill in the audience, from my anatomy days, you have 2 sets of carotids. You have the internal carotids and the external carotids. The external carotids supply the face with blood, and the internals supply the brain. But you also have the vertebral arteries that supply the brain. So you basically have 4 arteries that supply the brain, the 4 major arteries that supply the brain with blood. So subtract the internal carotids, and you're supposed to have 2. But what did you find out?
The vertebral, I had one of them they said was hypertrophic, which means that it was enlarged. It was bigger than normal. I think said roughly like twice the size normal. And I'm like, oh, that's a good thing. And it's like, yeah, but your other one is 100% blocked or occluded is what they is the fancy word for it. But I have I had one that's 100% blocked and one that's like enlarged. So they're saying they keep pointing to trauma. Like I had some kind of head trauma or something when I was very young that could have caused the vertebral wall to sort of become rough. And like that's what caused the blockage, because it's definitely not from my cholesterol, my weight, diabetes, or anything like that. So they're all pointing to trauma. And it happened, they said, when I was very, very young. And that's why my other vertebral artery is actually enlarged to make up for not having the carotids. And so like right now I have one major artery that supplies all of the blood in my brain. And that's basically what they concluded. And I don't think they can 100% confirm, but I mean, it's pretty obvious that the stroke came from, the occluded artery and through the clot.
Yeah. So yeah, it seems like, with the anatomy that you have, you're basically prone, to having strokes. But it sounds like they've
Yeah.
got you on a good plan, to prevent another one from
Yeah.
coming on. So tell me, so I mean, one thing that I don't think we made clear is that, after the stroke, I mean, you couldn't, much less play drums, you couldn't walk after. So, there was a lot of rehab going into
Oh yeah.
post stroke. So, tell me a little bit about that, and tell me how your drumming has progressed since the day it happened.
Well, with the rehab, basically, from my time getting into the hospital, it was 20. I had like 24 hours after I received the TPA to I had to be in the ICU and I couldn't move. Like I had to lay flat for 24 hours straight, which was like miserable. And then after I was taken off of that, and after I left the ICU, like I think a couple days later, once they put me onto like the neurological floor, like the LTAC. Once I was there, they started doing my therapy, which was pretty intense at first because like I wasn't able to like get up and see where I'm at with all of that stuff. I just basically they would come in every hour and check me to raise my hand, raise my leg and see how strong everything was. So initially it was like an hour, I believe, a day that I got physical therapy, which was helping with my walking and balance, and then my occupational therapy, which is basically like using my arms and legs for like day-to-day activities like buttoning your shirt and brushing your teeth and stuff like that. And basically like they started me with like the walker with the tennis balls, and they put this belt around you and just sort of basically reteach you how to walk properly. How like a step is supposed to progress. Like this is what you do. You throw your leg out in front. Toes down first, roll onto your foot. Like there's a whole process of like relearning how to basically do that, but at the same time, really working on my balance because I still have, it's not nearly obviously on that level, but I had some pretty bad proprioception issues. And that is just a fancy term for just your body, like your brain's way of knowing where your limbs are in space without having to look at them. You know, biggest example is, for instance, like in therapy later on, they would have me close my eyes and they would manipulate my arm and they would put it in a certain way. Like they'd have my elbow up, at my ear level, and they would put my left hand straight out. And they're like, all right, like with your eyes closed, put your arm to match exactly what your left arm was. And I'd have no clue. But, that's something that's normal that nobody thinks about, but your brain has to know where all of your limbs are for you to function accurately. So they also helped a ton with that, being able to trust putting weight on my leg, and that was probably a big issue. I also have like loss of sensation, which I still do, not nearly to the same degree, but I still definitely have a loss of sensation, mainly in my fingertips and my foot, which can kind of feel weird sometimes. It feels like I'm walking like on a stump, like I'll kind of lose feeling right at the ankle bone, you know, so everything underneath my foot, like underneath the ankle bone, I don't feel. So it feels like I'm kind of walking on a stump. If you've ever had like your foot fall asleep, kind of like that, but all the time.
I gotcha.
And then I have another side effect is hypersensitivity. So like from about my left armpit all the way down to my left hip, it's hypersensitive right there. So one of the ways they have me like sort of treat it and try to make it better to dull my nerves, I'll get like a rough like washcloth, like a really rough washcloth, and just sort of rub it. And it's so odd, but it's incredibly intense and it's incredibly uncomfortable. But for normal people, like it's like, oh yeah, it's just like it's like a shock almost because your nerves are all firing like on 100 cylinders right here. And I still have difficulty distinguishing between hot and cold. I know that it is an extreme of either one. Like, obviously, if I'm looking at it and it's in a pot, you know, and it's boiling, I'll know it's hot. But if I had like a faucet and I just turn the knob, I put my hand under it. If it's really cold or if it's really hot, it's going to feel the same to me. It feels intense, but I can't differentiate which one it is, if it's hot or cold. I know it sounds weird, and I know it's really, really hard for people to understand it or imagine or get a grasp on that. This has been, I guess, like a glass half full kind of thing, but it's just been an incredibly interesting experience to kind of go through these things and really, really appreciate all of the things that your brain does on autopilot that you don't have to worry about.
Yeah. So Tyler's bills kind of stacked up. I mean, he has a good job and he's got good insurance, but even after that, you know, the price of medicine and office visits and ER and hospitalization and testing, even the copays and the percentage that's not covered will add up. And so Tyler's got some medical debts and we're trying to help him out with that. So we've got a way to donate to Tyler via Facebook, and I'll be sure to give you guys the link to that. And all the proceeds from our show this Friday will go to help pay some of Tyler's bills. Tyler, tell them about the band's playing Friday.
Yeah. First of all, screw you for making like a grown man cry. That was I had no idea that, you know, you were basically in league with, you know, Megan, you know, my girlfriend and everything, and you guys kind of coordinated and all this stuff. And then I basically found out about it the same way everybody else did, where you put an event up on, and then I was like, well, now I'm an emotional wreck. But man, I appreciate so much what you guys have done, you know, to help with all this. It allows me to focus more on really pushing my therapy and getting better when I don't have this, you know, financial burden to worry about. Yeah, basically behind my back, you guys, I sort of compiled, you know, a lineup of some of my favorite bands locally. Obviously one of them is us, you know, and after months and months of hard work, you know, I'm really happy to say that I'm going to be able to play with my band full set, you know, just like I did before.
Months after stroke. Pretty awesome.
4 months later. I mean, you could have told me that, you know, 3 months ago or 2 months ago, and I was like, I won't be able to play for 8 months, or, you know. but it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of frustration. It's been a lot of sticks thrown across the practice room, but you know, a lot of frustration. And like my girlfriend always said, just it's like, what if if I can't get back to playing like I was, or like I won't be able to, what if I can? And she's like, it's not if you'll be able to do it again, it's when, and that's something you can control. And I'm like, okay. And here we are. And then we have frequent collaborators and just excellent folks. Smooth Ross and Reflection, always an absolute delight to watch those cats get down, man. And Chad, who recorded our record, he's in that band as well. All those folks are great. O'Kelly, man, one of the most exciting shows to catch, man. Like, just unreal, super talented fellas. And then Sailor Mouth, like, new guys on the scene, but just super blown away by their record and their vibe. Like, there's nothing like that around here. Like, just and being a drummer, man, I'm just a sucker for other drummers that I look up to. And Gino, being the phenomenal drummer he is, and being able to sing like that cat does is, all of these bands I just look up to so much, and I just can't. There's no way I can thank these guys enough for doing this for me. Like, I'm still just blown away.
Well, man, yeah, that's the least we could do, brother. So, we have a few things to give out, man. Definitely to the bands joining, Dr. C and the Gris Gris on the bill. Like you mentioned, O'Kelly, Sailor Mouth, Smooth Ross and the Reflection. Thanks to Herman Fuseli with the Daily Advertiser for writing the article on you today. Thanks to the guys at the Hoodcast for doing the podcast with you, getting the word out about your stroke. It's been great to see the support, man, and I'm excited about the show. We haven't played in a while, and it's gonna be good, and hopefully you guys come out. Like we said, it is this Friday, August 31st, 2018, at the Worst Beer Garden in Lafayette. Sailor Mouth is going to kick it off at 9. Dr. C and the Gris Gris will play after them. And then O'Kelly, and then Smooth Ross and the Reflection. Should be good, man. Tyler, you got any last comments about anything, about the show, about the stroke? Anything you want to add, man?
Yeah, man. This is going to be like probably something I said like to open the show, but I understand some people might not be there and be able to catch it. But there's one thing that I've thought about a lot since the stroke and everything, and it's a question that kept running through my mind, and it was, what did I do to deserve this? And I'm in no way talking about the stroke itself. Things happen. I'm talking about like the absolutely incredible people that I have in my life that are able to do things like this for people, and just what did I do to deserve like the good people, everybody who's donated and everybody who's coming out to the benefit and everything. It's incredible, man. Honestly, like, I'm super thankful, and like there's just words fail me, honestly, in this point. But yeah,
man, that's great, man. So I think as a society, we need to learn to better appreciate the people that are here with us. We tend to wait until they're sick or dead to show appreciation. So, this was kind of a wake-up call for me, and the least I could do is help set up this benefit, man. So hopefully we'll see you guys there Friday, and come out. Where's Beer Garden? 4 awesome Lafayette bands. Thank you, Tyler. We'll see y'all out there Friday. Peace.
Later.